areas and brings it to different places. And honestly, I hate. It's too bad because I do kind of like Nolan, but he really Nolanifies it. He does all this stuff where he has all these clunky monologues. He tries to mindfuck the audience. He has like a stupid twist at the end. And also, I gotta say, this is probably gotta be the dumbest, smartest movie ever. Meaning that apparently Kip Thorne, who's like I think he's a physicist, he's like a really big deal. He helped do all of the wormhole science for this. So all of the science in this movie is technically sound, but a lot of the stuff that the characters do, a lot of the twists in this movie are just like are beyond are beyond harebrained and dumb. I think because honestly, I saw this with a friend, and in the end, when there's this reveal, I'm not gonna ruin this part. If you're gonna see this movie, you'll see when they do the reveal in the end. First of all, which I kind of guessed halfway through the movie, which is not a good sign. Um, my friend and I looked at each other and we just started laughing. It's just so silly. Oh, and my friend, another one of my friends, told me that this movie said that the dialogue is really cheesy, and I didn't believe that at first because when this trailer first came out, like the first trailer came out last November, I said to myself, "All right, don't get too excited," because I did not like Inception or The Dark Knight Rises. But I was staying a little excited because it looked kind of cool and I liked that they weren't revealing so much. Then when it came out, when I heard all this stuff, really mixed reviews, some people loved it, some people hated it, I didn't think cheesy dialogue seemed like something that'd be in this movie. But oh my god, some of the things they say are just like, there's a few lines in there that are just like Clint Eastwood, late 1980s bad. I'm not even kidding. And it's this movie is the equivalent of a high school English paper that it's the rough draft and it looks really nice. Like the person made sure to put it in all the fonting, all the formatting, but it was really thrown together like content wise because the kid just wanted to get a good grade the next day. I mean, technically, Nolan works his ass off here, but I just felt like everything looked beautiful. Like I felt like it didn't compute because the shots, the universes they go to are amazing, but it's so jumbled narratively and everything, and it's just kind of a ridiculous movie in a lot of ways. Um, also here I'm gonna move around a bunch, but another thing that bothered me about this movie was I just wasn't really hooked from the beginning. At the beginning, even the first scene in the movie, pretty much the first scene is actually okay, but the second scene in the movie, that's like the first plot hole literally, and nothing really happens from it. And I was just like, really? And I don't know. There's just a lot here that bugs me. And oh, here's the big thing. This is an incredibly fucking obvious movie. For someone who directed such a subtle movie, The Dark Knight is such a subtle movie. There's all these things of morality, and you have the whole thing with when Batman has to decide between Harvey and Rachel, and they don't tell you that he's in anguish. Like they don't say like Batman has to decide. That's why it's bad. You see that it's like a hard decision, and how it impacts the characters later. But there's so many obvious lines in this movie. Like they explain everything that happens. Nothing is left up to your mind, and that's for a 3 hour movie. That gets really annoying. And for a movie that could have had some really interesting themes and looks so great, it's just kind of off putting. And I feel like Christopher Nolan. I felt like Christopher Nolan a lot of the time. It was like he was making his own thing, and someone should have gone up to him and been like, "Hey, you got some problems here. You think you're amazing here, but you're not." And Christopher Nolan were like, no, I'm making a masterpiece, I'm making a masterpiece. And then you should have been like, no, listen to me for a sec. You got to do some things differently. And yeah, that's kind of this movie. That's Christopher Nolan. Even if he thinks it's really great, he's doing his thing here, and his thing is not very good here. I don't think because I mean it's obviously ambitious, and some things work, but I really feel like a lot of things do not work. And also, literally, I'm pretty sure they told Hans Zimmer to just do something different here. His music wasn't the foghorns from like Inception and The Dark Knight Rises, like the blahs in every trailer. That was good. And it wasn't that his music was bad exactly, but they have this one score that's like pretty good. It's like this one musical piece, but they play it over and over. So every scene seems like the last scene of the movie, and that's ridiculous. And I don't know. That's another part of making this movie feel very anticlimactic to me. For a movie that's trying to be very smart and intelligent, it does a lot of things that kind of take away from that. I I feel like this is a hard movie. I'm a little surprised, honestly, that Christopher Nolan, after watching this again, like really thought, "Wow, this is I did everything perfectly here." It felt a little bit like a rough cut to me, and also I feel like a lot of people might think that I am saying that I'm like one of those guys who is just like endlessly criticizes a movie when it doesn't deserve it. And I'll let you know that this movie, one reason I'm doing a video review of this, is that this wasn't just like a movie that had flaws but was a lot of fun. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. The first Transformers, not the second, third, or fourth, those are all shit. But the first Transformers is a movie that technically has a lot of flaws, but it's a lot of fun to watch. I think that the problem with this movie is, although the effects are beautiful, it has no sense of fun or wonder. And that could have been one thing if all of the intellectual stuff was really sound. But it's not as intellectually stimulating, I think, as Christopher Nolan thought it was going to be. So therefore, it's just really boring. Like, it's a little bit engaging in the beginning. And I'll admit, like, the effects, as I said, are really nice. But as it goes on, like, there was one point I went to my friend and I was like, "There's another hour and 45 minutes of me," and he was like, "Are you kidding, right?" And I said, "No, I wish." And it's just it goes on for a really long time, and because of that, you're really out of it. And then I started to think of think about how annoying some of the things were, and I started to kind of criticize it in my mind, which is not good. That's not good if you're making this movie. And I honestly think if a lot of people saw this and liked this, that's fine. But I feel like for a lot of people who really like Nolan, this movie must have been disappointing. And I'm not saying Nolan has to like make every fan love him, but this movie just has of a lot of flaws. Oh, another thing that really annoyed me. There's this one part when Michael Caine's character is dialing, spoiler, I guess, and he's explaining an important plot point of the film, and he sounds like fucking Alfred after a stroke. He's like, "If the Oth is going to die, then you are." And then he just fucking dies, and you don't know what he says. And I was laughing in this part, unintentionally, of course. And because of that, not only because couldn't understand him, but because that was happening, I just didn't give a shit. And that's the whole thing with the movie. I didn't give a shit. I honestly, I did not care about Matthew McConaughey. Didn't care about his stupid daughter. I didn't care about Anne Hathaway. I didn't care about Matt Damon. I didn't care about anyone in this movie. I didn't care about what happened. And it wasn't like I was just judging it harshly. It just gave me no reason to. For a movie that's 3 hours, you rush your freaking exposition, and then you just throw all this stuff in, and you're really clunky, and I was like, this is not right. That's just not what you want to do. You know, I'll end it now because I don't want to keep on ranting. But just generally, I just think great movie visually, that's good, but it's honestly not. Unless you really want to see the visuals, I don't think it's worth seeing it for all of the clunkiness it does. Because sadly, if this movie was put together, like if they put this at Lockheed Martin as a 30-minute movie of just the visuals, like about space, it looked great. And all those space scenes are actually formed. Like the difference is they're actually put together well. They're put together brilliantly. So that's great. And I guess it's not that the other stuff is really bad. It's just that it's really boring. It's not as smart as it thinks. You don't care. And it's a really messy movie. And I can say and without a doubt, when I got out, I knew I just didn't really like this movie. And I gotta say, it kind of kills a lot of my faith in Christopher Nolan. It really does. Hopefully they'll make another good movie next, but I'm starting to think he's kind of overrated now. If this movie gets nominated for Best Picture, I'm gonna have it with the Academy because it's just this is Christopher Nolan trying to make a Best Picture a winner, and I think anyone who makes a movie and you say that, like a real test of an Oscar winner is if you see it and you say that's a great movie, not, oh, that's going to win an Oscar. Unless it's like 12 Years a Slave was a really good movie, but I kind of thought it was going to win the Oscar. But that's different. Here, it just seemed like he was trying to make a masterpiece. And when you make a movie that's a masterpiece, it becomes a masterpiece because of the content and everything in it. It's not because you're trying to make a masterpiece. And that's what he was trying to do here. and it bugged me, bottom line. So tell me what you think out of my rant, and I'm going to do a special thing, because I don't want to be a hypocrite. There were a lot of parts in this movie, not the science parts, because I'm not very smart science-wise, but there's a lot of scenes in this movie where the explanations and what happens are really dumb, and I honestly think I could come up with better explanations. So in the comments, think up some scenes and ask me for my own explanation of what could have happened next, because I think I could do it better than Christopher Nolan. Alright, well, Interstellar is still in theaters now. It came out a few weeks ago. You can see it this snowy Thanksgiving. So, alright, bye. Before I go, there's one more thing I want to say. Matthew McConaughey's a shitty father in this movie. So, before he leaves to go to space, we found out later he doesn't want to tell his daughter the freaking Earth is dying because he thinks he wouldn't want to tell it to a 10-year-old, but his kid's like a genius, so that's dumb. But instead, he's like, hey, don't worry, baby. I don't know when I'm coming home, but when I come home, I might be the same age as you. Wouldn't that be cool? And the kid freaks out. I'm like, what kid would think that's awesome? That's just, you idiot. Now you just told her that you have no idea when he's coming back. Then he just leaves, and they have like years of regret. He meets her when she's like 100 or something. And that was stupid. Yeah, this movie's stupid.